movie Social Network tells the story of the founding of Facebook. It begins with a bad date, a really, really bad date. Mark Zuckerberg, who's a sophomore in college, is out on a date with his girlfriend. He goes to Harvard, she goes to Boston University. And the first 5 minutes of the film show the date as it unfolds. And as you watch, you cringe because he is talking, and he is constantly talking, and he is always talking about himself. And the few moments when he does refer to his girlfriend, it's not in a positive way. And so you can see this date crashing and burning right before your eyes. And at a certain point, as she has become redder and redder, she stands up, says to him, "Mark, we're through. You are so self-centered." And she said, "All you think about is yourself, and I can't take it anymore." And she walks out, and that's the end. He goes home, and he's very upset, very upset. And as he gets home and he thinks that night more and more about this, he said, "Well, she didn't like parts of me." And he said, "What if I could find a way to create a world in which people only saw the parts of me that I want them to see? Not the real me, but only the parts I want them to see." Wouldn't that be a wonderful world? And that was the first foundation for Facebook, of being able to go into a world that is different from the world in which you live normally, and in which you can create your own identity, whether it's false or true, because you control everything that people see about you. And the second foundation for Facebook also came for that date. Because as he was thinking more and more in the days that followed, he said to himself, "You know, I really didn't like her anyway." And so he says, "What if I can have a world in which I only interact with the people I choose to? I get to populate the world I live in." And that was the second foundation for Facebook: friending, deciding who you let into your world. Now, as these two impulses unfolded in the internet, and so much creative and positive has come from the internet, yet these two impulses, the desire to create false images of ourselves and the desire to control who we have to interact with in the world, and frankly, to interact with only people who think like me, look like me, act like me, want the things that I want in this world. Those two impulses, which have been present in every generation in human history, became more pronounced and confront each of us today. And these two impulses are directly contradictory to the foundation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the first reading today, Solomon, as a young man, is asked by God, "What do you want?" Solomon's a good man. And he's asked by God, "What do you want?" And Solomon could have asked for a variety of different gifts that God could give him. And yet he asks for something very, very important. He asks for wisdom. And in the gospel today, Jesus says the whole journey of our life really is to search for the pearl of great price, to answer the question of what is our life about with the same sense that Solomon did, that nothing of peripheral, nothing that is secondary, even though it's very alluring in this world, none of those things of power, wealth, or money, or sex, or any of those things, popularity, none of those things are the pearl of great price. The pearl of great price is understanding the wisdom of God and the gospel of Jesus Christ. And the gospel of Jesus Christ says to us that those two impulses, which were running through Mark Zuckerberg's life at that point, the first one being to create images of ourselves and believe that that can lead to happiness, false images of ourselves. In contrast to that, Jesus says the only true pathway to happiness in this world is authenticity and integrity. And sometimes that's very, very hard to live out. It's hard to be authentic, and at times it's hard to accept the consequences of being authentic. It's easier sometimes to pretend that we're different than we are and to put out false images. But Jesus says, the core of the gospel message says, what's key is not what's on the outside. What's key is on the inside. Integrity and authenticity. And the gospel also says to us what that great feast of Pentecost says to us so powerfully in the coming of the Holy Spirit. We are called in the Spirit to open our lives up to all of the peoples of the world, to all of the experiences that lie out there that are God's gift to us, to open us out, to come out of our tendency to close ourselves in, to cut ourselves off, and to constantly grow in understanding the goodness and the beauty of the world that God has created for us in all of its richness and diversity. To understand that it is in relationships with others, founded in love and care and compassion and mercy. It is in those relationships that we find our own identity and find God present. And to understand most fully that it is in relationship with God Himself, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, that we most fully find ourselves, because we most fully find the God who created us in love in the first moment in our mother's womb and sustains us in love all through our journey here on this earth and waits for us to embrace us at the end of time. So I say to you as you come together this weekend, I hope and pray that you may understand that this weekend is meant to be, in a very real way, the moment of God speaking to you just as God spoke to Solomon in the first reading. And God is saying to you, what is it that you want for your life? What is it that God you want in your life? What is it that you want to be the purpose of your life? Solomon had a beautiful answer rooted in God. I hope and pray that for each of you, as you come away from this gathering, you too may have beautiful answers for God and for yourselves that remain with you for a lifetime.